We're all fans of Harman Smith. Subscribe to the channel.
For those of you who don't know, I'm taking a bit of a break from streaming right now. I decided to take the opportunity to focus more on like personal stuff. You know, I woke up today and I started stretching, I started working out, I started cooking more, and it was kind of nice coming home and not having to freak out about eventually starting a stream, okay? Because I'm always feeling like I'm running behind. It feels like I had to get through all these games and I have to, play to my audience, and I'm just kind of like, no. Obviously, this is becoming a bit too stressful. Obviously, I'm doing a bit too much. And obviously, I need to scale things back. Streaming has to go. Like, not because I don't enjoy it or because, I don't like the game. It's because I do. It's just a situation where I'm just kind of like, I have so many other things I would want to do that, streaming indefinitely just doesn't seem like it's going to pan out for me. I'm perfectly fine with the success I've had on YouTube, and yeah, I think this is it. I think I'm perfectly happy, being in this position where I can just kind of walk away whenever I want. So, yeah, the streams are over indefinitely until I want to come back and stream again. I don't know. It could be next month. It could be a couple of months. We'll see. But I have still been playing video games, and that's one of the nice things about taking time off from streams is that I can just kind of oh yeah, I have a couple of minutes. Let me play Street Fighter 6 or Tamagotchi or whatever, and just kind of enjoy myself for a bit. Because, I think that's been a problem where you're streaming and you're talking about things and it's oh yeah, you have to provide interest and commentary, and you have to play the game and have a pretty solid, concrete opinion on it. Usually, I'm pretty good at, playing a game and pretty instantly just kind of knowing, how I feel about it and how much I enjoy it. And the thing with Street Fighter 6 is that, that hasn't been the case. Because instantly when this came out, I was just yeah, this is slop. I don't enjoy it. I'm not having fun with this. I hate the single player. I hate a lot of the characters. I hate, all these mechanics. It's very, very slow, right? I hate the art style. I hate the visual design, I hated everything about Street Fighter 6. And to a certain extent, a lot of that, I still stand by. I do think the single player is crap. I do think the base character roster was kind of lame. I do think that, this game could have been a lot more. But on the other hand, this is an extremely competitive online fighting game that actually has a player base. It actually has cross-play. It's actually on Nintendo Switch too. And so even though I would prefer playing other fighting games, the simple fact of the matter is Street Fighter 6 is the one I'm playing the most because it's on my platform of choice. And because of that, I've put a lot of time into it, and I've started to like it because of just how complex the mechanics are at a high level. And that's the thing about Street Fighter that's not really easy to kind of explain, is that it's not fun at lower levels because, there's nothing really to do at lower levels. There's nothing really there's no single player. There's nothing that really gets you invested. But then, when you start getting, into the competitive side of things and start learning all the movesets and the characters and, learning matchups and learning, all the combos and stuff like that, that's when it starts getting fun. But for me, it took me, 90 hours of playtime to get to the point where I was, reasonably good with, one character. It's way too much to ask of a player, I think, to put that much time into something that you might not like, okay? So it's a really difficult situation for me because I'm really, really enjoying Street Fighter 6. It's really the only game I'm genuinely fired up about playing right now because of the online play and the online features and because of the community and because of everything going on with that, the DLC updates. But at the same time, I'm just not thrilled about so many aspects of the game itself. Every time I boot this up, I just instantly go in the online mode, play some matches, and that's it. It's just one of those things where you're just is the game genuinely good or not? And I suppose the answer is both yes and no, in that there are good things about it, but it takes so much time to get into and so much time to learn that, like, it honestly feels like unless you're really willing to commit time and energy to, like, learning the game, it's just a complete waste of time. Like, that's just kind of my mindset, as I play these matches. Because, like, it wasn't that long ago where I was saying that I was, like, done with the game for good. And I was, going to move on to Virtua Fighter 5. And I liked Virtua Fighter 5 a lot, but Virtua Fighter 5 has a very crippling problem. Namely, the fact that it doesn't have as active as an online scene as Street Fighter 6. So even if I came away thinking Virtua Fighter 5 was better, if I thought, like, Guilty Gear Strive was better, which I do actually think Strive is quite a bit better than Street Fighter 6, it's like, well, there's no online play. Like, the reality is Street Fighter 6 manages to excel because it actually has crossplay. It actually has an active online scene. It actually has an active player base. So you can actually play people online. There's no bullshit like Arc System Works, like, stupid matchmaking system, like, where, like, you go into this huge lobby and you see, like, nobody around, okay? Like, no. If you go unranked and you play, like, you're going to find someone to play. Like, at all hours, all the time. I have never struggled finding players in Street Fighter 6. Even except maybe when, like, the servers are struggling due to, like, a new character update or like the launch of the Switch 2 or whatever. Like, there were, like, Street Fighter 6 was something that I thought had a lot of problems. It's something that I do kind of stand by, is that, like, I don't think the base game was good, and yet, every year they've been adding new characters, all of which, like, look and play radically differently. They've been making really cool lore changes to all of them. Alex is great. Ingrid looks great. It's like I'm genuinely fired up for year 4. And it's just one of those weird things in that, like, Capcom seems to have stumbled across a formula that works. Like, release a fighting game, have it sell consistently well throughout the console generation, and, like, keep it relevant with sporadic updates throughout the year. Okay, so we get, like, characters every 4 months. We get new costumes, new stages occasionally. It's like, it keeps the game fresh. And, people like me come in, like, years after the fact. I didn't get this game until it came out on Switch 2. I believe, like, 3 years in, 2 years in. Yeah, I think it was, like, 2 years in. Yeah, 2 years in at the time. Like, the Switch 2 version, did not play the game until then. And it's like, I don't know. It's one of those situations where the game feels as if, like, it shouldn't work as well as it does. And yet, like, right now, Street Fighter is one of my favorite gaming IPs. It's like, it's the thing I've gotten into over the past year. Like, I'm actually really excited about, like, the movie. I'm excited about year 4. I'm excited about learning more about the characters. It's just been, like, a lot of fun getting into this, like, this culture and getting into it. And yet, like, Street Fighter 6 is one of those games that I was initially very, very critical of, because it does the thing that I don't like fighting games, that I don't like, that fighting games do. It does that thing that I hate that fighting games do, where, like, the online multiplayer is the only reason to buy the game. Like, again, the single player is, like, the most fleshed out, interesting, like, attempt at a single player RPG campaign I have seen out of a fighting game in years. And yet, like, it still doesn't feel like it really hits the mark. It doesn't really feel like it's really relevant or competitive or something that, like, people actually get excited about. I look at, like, everything I like doing in Street Fighter 6, and it really does just boil down to, like, booting up ranked, picking jury, and then just, like, inevitably getting into, like, these scuffles with, like, other players online and getting mad at, like, other people for, like, spamming projectiles. Like, again, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it, but, like, is it because of the game? Or is it because of, like, the player base? Because, to me, I just feel like the game itself was, like, way too counterintuitive. And, like, all we're doing as players is just kind of, like, working within the confines of the game. you abuse drive rush until, you get to a high enough level where people won't let you do that anymore. And then you like start whipping out like more strategies, and then people start countering your strategies. And then it's like this weird arms race of like people fighting each other using basic tech that really should have been more accessible to begin with. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, it's really shocking how like you can fight like different people who are playing the same characters and yet have like radically different play styles. Like, it's not the game that's doing that, because I think the game is like a relatively stable, a relatively like normal, ordinary fighting game. It's the players. Like, my mindset is, if that like Guilty Gear or Pokken Tournament or Smash Bros had this kind of competitive scene, like you would be seeing a lot more like players like that in those games. Like, you would be seeing a lot more variety. You would be seeing a lot more like innovation when it comes to the tech and how to abuse it and stuff like that. Like, it feels like Street Fighter just has this really competitive, passionate like fan base that are willing to like push the game to the limits, and that's what makes it fun. Like, not necessarily the mechanics in and of themselves, which do seem very unintuitive, which seem very basic, which are way too hard to learn. When you look at like what the game actually offers, like, it's a lousy single player and a stupid online hub. Like, nothing really. There's no real appeal to the game other than getting better at it. Like, that's the only thing keeping people coming back, is that like the accomplishment of like improving your rank, improving your skill set, and being like reaching that elusive master rank. Okay, like, it's not like. It's just kind of a superfluous accomplishment that doesn't really mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, you're just beating other players at this fighting game. I just feel personally as if like, if you're gonna make a game like this, like, I feel as if it should be exceptional on its own merits. Like, not because of the community and because of the online scene. Like, it has to be something that's actually interesting, that actually innovates, that actually has good characters, that actually like does something that makes it stick out from the competition. But like, the problem with Street Fighter 6 is that like fundamentally it has no competition, because every single other fighting game has dropped the ball this generation, especially on Switch 2. Guilty Gear made that mistake of like releasing Strive on Switch 1 when they should have just waited for the Switch 2 to come out. We saw that like, Tekken hasn't come over yet. We don't have a confirmation that Dead or Alive or Virtua Fighter are coming over. Like, what's coming over? Like, we'll get Smash eventually, but that's probably going to be like, what, 5 years from now? Like, it's gonna be a crazy long time before the next Smash Bros. Game comes out. And like, honestly, that's not even like really the same genre. It's kind of like a subgenre, at this point, its own thing. Like, it's not really like a classic 2D fighting game like this. Like, I think back to like when I played Dragon Ball FighterZ for the first time. Dragon Ball Fighters, excuse me. Dragon Ball Fighters for the first time. Fighters felt like it innovated, right? It took this, this popular license. It gave it this cool 3-on-3 format. It had all this innovation. It had all these cool characters. It had all this stuff. It didn't feel like a knockoff of other fighting games. It had all these unique mechanics. It had like these natural combo chains. Like, it really managed to balance like being technically demanding and accessible, in a way that like Street Fighter 6 like never really had. Like, I never really got bored of Dragon Ball FighterZ until the online died off on Switch. Dragon Ball FighterZ was, and I would say probably still is, like one of my all-time favorite fighting games for that reason, is that like it actually felt innovative. It actually felt like it put a lot of thought into like having single-player content. It actually felt like it tried to be something innovative and tried to be a high-quality Dragon Ball product and a high-quality fighting game, And with like Street Fighter 6, I don't really get that feeling. Like, with Street Fighter 6, I don't really feel as if like this is some major innovation in fighting games. Like, for me, when I play it, is that It's something I'm playing to be competitive. That's it. Like, I feel as if the instant we get a Street Fighter 7, I'm never going to play this again. Like, that's kind of my mentality on this. And maybe people feel the same way about, like, older classic fighting games, like, Third Strike or Alpha or even 2. But, like, for me, like, the instant 7 comes out, like, I feel like the game, 6's entire appeal will just kind of, like, dry up and become, like, obsolete. Like, I don't see 6 having much of a legacy, honestly, outside of just, setting the stage for 7. And I feel almost as if it doesn't really need it. Like, I feel like the Street Fighter brand has kind of reached that point where people kind of expect, like, old games to be tossed aside in favor of the new ones. Okay, I'm sure we've gotten, like, some weird retcons and, like, some lore changes over the years. Like, for me, I feel as if, like, that is a shame, though. Like, to me, I feel like growing up, like, playing fighting games, playing Mortal Kombat, like, you saw this very real progression in, like, how the game evolved over time. You got, like, the cool dark tone in 2, then you had the goofier vibe in Ultimate 3, and then you went, like, to the 3D era, and then we get to, like, Mortal Kombat 9. Like, it feels like all of the games are, like, radically different from each other, and that's what makes it worth coming back and, like, still being engaged. They all have, like, unique mechanics. They all have, like, unique features. They have different characters, right? Even after Ultimate 3 came out, like, plenty of people were still playing MK2 and actually thought of that game as being way better. Like for me, I feel like with the way modern fighting games are set up is that, like, they come out, they get all their DLC updates, they keep getting patched, they keep getting new features, new updates, like, things in them, and then it's just, like, what you end up getting is, like, you're going to get a bunch of things that just you had in the last game, honestly. Because that's the very interesting thing about Street Fighter 6 is that a lot of the DLC characters, actually pretty much all of them, are just, like, old characters that are just, like, being sold as DLC. I don't know if we have a single, like, original character in any of the DLC campaigns yet. It's all just classic characters from older games that probably should have been in the base roster to begin with. I'll have to look and see who's in the DLC packs. But it's like, again, like, Street Fighter 6 comes out with a bunch of new characters that nobody likes, and then has, like, a DLC campaign, like, the DLC characters of, like, of characters that people actually recognize, like M. Bison, Elena, Terry Bogard, Mai Shiranui. It's like the DLC characters in 6 are way better than the base game. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't really talk about, but it's something I have noticed as I play through this game, is that, like, I don't really see, like, this being, like, that is ever is going to lead, like, Street Fighter 6 into being, like, a long-term, like, viable thing, Like, eventually it feels like there's going to be this weird divide between, like, what the game was when it first launched and when it ends. And to me, it just feels like, because of this, it's like you can't really evaluate the game as a whole, because you're, like, judging it by how it ended and not how it started. You're like, oh, look at all these characters. Oh, Street Fighter 6 has the largest character roster ever, but it got there through 4 years of DLC. Again, like, what is Street Fighter 6 doing to set itself apart from other fighting games? Like, what is it doing that's special? Okay, what's it doing that, like, makes it interesting, like, long term? Like, what is going to keep me playing this after Street Fighter 7 comes out? And I really just don't really see anything. Like, the game's just not that good from a gameplay perspective. It's not something that people will come back and do, like, the arcade mode in, like, after 7 comes out. Like, again, right now, like, people only play the arcade mode just to see how, like, the character intros and the ending, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's basically a tutorial for when you go online. And honestly, like, a lot of times I don't even do that. Like, I started playing Alex, and I just went straight into ranked. I didn't give a fuck. Like, I'm not going to the arcade mode. Like, fuck you. So, again, like, why couldn't they make the arcade mode more fun? Why couldn't they, like, why can't they make learning the characters more interesting. Like, why couldn't they make the lore like easier to follow? That's another thing too, is that like how difficult it is to like follow along with the lore of these games, because like I have no idea why Terry and like Mai are even there. Like, is this taking place in the KOF universe? Is there like, some crossover thing? Like, why are they there? They just are. Like, I'm just confused by that. I am very, very confused by that. So again, I'm interested in the lore and I'm interested in the characters, but like when you don't have anything meaningful going on in the actual game, like how hard would it really to be like to have a single player mode where you just drop an event where like you play as a protagonist and have to go through like some like anime arc or something where like Chun-Li, like, oh yeah, Shadow Lu's reforming, we have to go stop him, and then you just go up and like fight a bunch of people through like an actual structured story. Like how hard would that be to do, as opposed to the dumb like original character like being trained by Street Fighter characters thing. Like to me that makes a lot more sense. Like to me that's what I would want out of a Street Fighter single player mode. Because that is one of the things that the single player mode does really, really well, actually, is that like it actually makes it uses a lot of the established lore and like uses the characters pretty effectively and makes them look cool and stuff like that. But like it's like, well, it could be better, because like why exactly are these original characters who aren't in the real game even involved at all? It doesn't make any sense. So with that being said, yeah, I really like Street Fighter 6. In spite of everything, I'm having a lot of fun with it. And it's something I've been playing consistently since last year. I have stopped several times, but like as of right now, I have no intention of stopping, especially because I'm so hooked on playing Alex right now and definitely want to get better at him. But again, DLC, so like how much praise can you give a game for like having DLC in it? I don't know. Like this game, it has a lot of problems, but I'm definitely enjoying it quite a bit more than something like, say, Resident Evil Requiem. It's definitely one of the better things Capcom has done in recent years.